Ob nun Digitalisierung, KI, demographischer Wandel oder auch Gesundheit, die Welt ist voller Trends und Themen, in die man auch investieren kann. Doch wie findet man nun den passenden Fonds oder die passende Aktie zum Thema? Und wie sinnvoll kann thematisches Investieren sein? Fragen dazu an Yashica Reddy, Investment Director für thematische Investments bei Schroders. Einen schönen guten Tag nach London.
Hello everyone.
Ja, was machen denn für Sie thematische Investments aus und wo geht die Reise hin? Künstliche Intelligenz gehört doch sicherlich dazu, oder?
Andreas, I think that's a very good question. There is a little known theory called the end of history illusion. And it was a theory that was conceptualized and tested by a Harvard professor called Daniel Gilbert. And what they found was that people vastly underestimated the magnitude of change that would take place over the next 10 years, while fully acknowledging how profound the change had been over the previous 10 years. And that's because transformational shifts rarely unfold at a linear pace. You have rapid advancements in technology, you have changing consumer preferences, we have issues such as climate change that are all disrupting existing paradigms throughout the economy. So thematic investments then is about placing a focus on industries, on sectors that are made much more dynamic by the trends that shape them and the need to attract significant capital. And to your point, thematic investment is very pervasive. Technology is certainly one of them. It's underpinned by AI. It's underpinned by connectivity, automation, digitization, but you also have other megatrends like climate change, demographic shifts, natural capital, and societal change.
Dann machen wir es doch ein Stück konkreter. Welche Entwicklungen haben Sie denn zuletzt bei thematischen Investieren feststellen können?
So thematic investing has been around for quite some time, and it has continued to have very, very strong appeal over the years. And the reason being, it provides differentiated exposure to companies where the returns are influenced by a number of different structural forces that are evolving independently of the economic cycle. So thematic investing has grown in size, it's grown in number, and it's also grown in prominence in pretty much all the major markets globally. So over the last 5 years, the assets under management have grown to about 600 to 700 billion from a mere 250 billion 5 years ago. So it's a very, very interesting space. But I also want to highlight just one thing. Not all of the themes will work all of the time during short periods of time. These are all long-term structural shifts. These are 10, 20, 30-year themes. And so there will likely be volatility in the short term. So I think the one thing we should not be afraid of is investing in these long-term structural shifts, because there has been that 1, 2, 3 year period where we've seen pronounced volatility.
Ich möchte mich ein Stück weit auf die Technologie konzentrieren, denn Technologie durchzieht ja quasi alle Bereiche der Megatrends und auch der Themeninvestments. Wie schwer ist es daher, dieses Thema sinnvoll zu trennen? Ich meine, Microsoft, Nvidia und Apple sind ja fast überall zu finden.
Yeah, it's a conversation we've been having with quite a few prospective clients where everybody seems to have the same exposure. It's either Microsoft or an Nvidia or an Apple. I think differentiating between these themes is very, very important because technology can be very pervasive. And also when technology stocks are doing well, everyone wants to own the same 3 names or the same 6 or 7 names. So at Schroders, we have a very systematic approach to assessing what would and wouldn't fit within an investable universe. So what you will not find is a Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple within our energy transition strategy or any of these names within our sustainable food and water strategies. We apply a very thoughtful approach. We take a revenue-based approach, and we also have independent committees that help us understand and verify the investable universe. So not all thematic equities look like a Tech Plus portfolio.
Und auch die Energiewende ist ein Riesenthema, ein Riesentrend. Allerdings hat der Sektor in den vergangenen 12 bis 18 Monaten eine durchaus schwierige Zeit durchlebt. Wann wird denn der zyklische Druck, dem der Sektor ausgesetzt ist, aufhören, Yashica? Sehen Sie da positive Anzeichen?
We did see, Andreas, huge bubble-esque behavior in 2020, and then ETF flows during that period went from 400 million to 8 billion over a very short period of time. And then, of course, we saw a huge derating in the sector. So to your point, we have seen similar disruptions in technology transitions as well in the past, but we're also starting to see signs of brighter times coming through. We have seen shifting expectations around earnings, around interest rates, around ETF flows, which have started to see a reduction in the outflows. We are seeing a huge demand for low-cost renewable power. We are continuing to see falling costs and better technologies for consumer products that can, again, drive earnings growth. So it is starting to look a lot better. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're seeing a large disconnect between the public markets, which are short-term, and private markets, which are long-term views of the sector. And this explains why the strategy has had more and more companies in the renewable energy generation sector bought out at large premiums by the private equity sector. So we are starting to see some brighter times ahead.
Und auch künstliche Intelligenz ist in aller Munde. Wir haben auch KI ja schon kurz in diesem Gespräch erwähnt, Yashica. Wie wird das Thema Energiewende nun mit der KI-Chance in Verbindung gebracht?
Sam Altman recently said, the CEO of OpenAI, that the hardest part in satisfying AI compute demand is energy. So if we look at our current global electricity demand, it's about 27,000 terawatt hours. And Andreas, you might say, I don't know what that is, but it's a very, very big number. So the initial estimates for electricity demand driven by AI range from about 250 terawatt hours to 500 terawatt hours in 2027. And that's 1,000 terawatt hours already in 2030. So therefore, at the upper end of this range, AI is already representing 2% of incremental demand in 2027 and 4% of incremental demand by 2030. So if you look at AI model training, the initial driver of the next wave of data center demand is likely to be 6 times more energy intensive than traditional workloads because of the vast amount of data which is involved in the new training data sets. And so in order to successfully meet this data center capacity and electricity demand, we're going to have to invest a lot more in our renewable energy developers, in the transmission and distribution networks, in the ancillary equipment providers, and in the battery providers. So there's a huge opportunity within energy transition as we start to use more electricity globally.
Das sind viele, viele spannende Themen, die wir hier kurz in diesem Interview ansprechen können, aber wir werden sie ausführlich erleben können. Ende November auf dem Financial Planning Forum in Berlin. Sie werden dort einen Vortrag halten mit dem Thema Navigating Change with Thematic Investment. Können Sie bitte kurz beschreiben, was die Teilnehmer dort erwartet?
I'm very much looking forward to the Financial Planning Forum in Berlin. I'm very excited. During my time there, I will be talking about our approach to thematic investing, the pace of innovation cycles, and how powerful structural themes rarely exist in isolation. I will also talk a little bit more about 2 megatrends, which I think is quite exciting. One is on technology and the other is on climate change. I do think they're very, very intertwined. Driving away with reinvention is impacting every part of the business. And so we'll talk on that with regard to technology. And we'll also talk about climate change with regard to the significant amount of transformation in the energy system and how that presents opportunities for sustainable investment across the entire sector.
Und auch wir freuen uns sehr, dass Sie uns in Berlin besuchen und das Forum bereichern werden. Yashica Reddy war das Investment Director für thematische Investments bei Schroders. Ganz herzlichen Dank für das Gespräch.
Thank you very much.